Today, I am reviewing this board. Check it out. It's running KDE Plasma while I'm remote desktop into it. Stay tuned to find out all about it. You probably guessed it. I'm reviewing the Renegade from Libre Computer. I will start by talking about the specifications. Then we'll move on to discuss the setup. We will also discuss installing KDE Plasma. This was one of my viewers' suggestion. Thank you and shout out to you. After that, I will talk about SSH and firewall configuration, some troubleshooting if you want a remote desktop into it. At the very end, I will give you a final conclusion and my honest opinion. So let's get into it. Now let's talk about the specs. This is the Renegade. It's a 2 gigabyte RAM, 1.4 gigahertz of CPU. It comes with one USB 3 and two USB-A. I've added the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi just because there is no onboard Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. 1 gigabit Ethernet, headphone jack, HDMI, capable of up to 4K. This is the power. It is not a USB-C, so it's the old micro USB. This is your SD card. Make sure you use a good quality SD card. It's really sensitive to the SD card quality. This is an IR receiver. And here you have a couple heat sinks that I've added. These don't come with the board. This is your 40-pin GPIO. They did a good job of keeping this very similar to the Raspberry Pi. So great job on that. So here's what you need for the setup. By the way, this article you see here, I have it on my website. I will link to it in the description. You'll have all the steps and the code needed. Let's get back to the setup here. First, you're going to need to download the Raspberry Pi imager. I have a link here. You click that. This is the Raspberry Pi imager. You'll download that. The second here is download the image from Libre Computer site, which I put a link here. You go to their website, and I'll show you how to navigate to this page. So if we go to the main home page, actually, I think we need to go to here. That's their main page. Download. Then you choose your board. Obviously, we're talking about the Renegade, Raspbian, and it'll bring you to this page, which is already linked in my article. You see this distro server here. That's what you're going to click on. Then here you choose the image that is needed for your board. Get a good quality SD card. I keep saying SD card. It's a micro SD card. I'll fix this. It's really sensitive to the quality of the micro SD card, so get a good quality micro SD card. After the image is completed, just plug it into the HDMI and complete the setup. You're going to need to enter like a username, password. Make sure also to add like a Wi-Fi via USB. If you need a Bluetooth, you can do that also via the USB. There is a way to do, if you look at the article that they have on their website, there is a way to do some pre-configuration. So if you want to like pre-set up the Wi-Fi or the admin username and password, things like that, you can pre-configure. But I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. This is still doable even if you skip these and then you do them as you do the setup and you log in and you set up your username and password. Okay, moving on to the fun part, installing KDE Plasma. Let me start by saying I do not recommend this. I think it's too heavy for this board. KDE Plasma requires a bit more resources than this board can offer, but I just did it for testing, for fun, also so I can get a fun title for this video so people can watch it. Thank you for watching, by the way. Let's get into the code. First, obviously, you're going to get into the terminal, and then you're going to enter this first code to make sure everything gets updated. And by the way, the Y here is just to click a yes for you in the command line, so you don't have to confirm everything with a Y yourself. If you don't enter the Y, then you would have to confirm it yourself. You get the idea. After that, this is the installation code. So you would do this command to install the KDE Plasma desktop. During the installation, there was going to be a pop-up to confirm, and then you're going to choose the display manager. This is the option that you are going to choose in that pop-up. The very last command you need is this, and this is just to switch from the Raspbian to the KDE desktop Plasma starter. So you would write this command, and then you would choose this option from the option list that you're going to get. I believe you'll see 6 options, and this should be the very last one. Depend on your board, depend on what you have installed, but this was my experience. Okay, what if you don't want the fancy stuff? It's like, I'm not a KDE Plasma person. I just want to SSH into it. Keep it simple. Well, let's talk about that. First, you need to configure the firewall, install the open SSH, then allow the uh, traffic to come in to port 22. So this is the steps that will help you out. Uh, First, this is just to update things. This is the installation. This is to open up the port. Here you can check the status if needed, just in case it's disabled. You can enable it with this code. Here, this is the code that you can get your local IP address. So this is the IP address that you can SSH into your board from within your own network. So keep in mind, this will change. Let's say if you move on to a different router, modem, if you're traveling, then this will change and you would need to recheck that IP address, depend on your internet connection. After everything is set up, you can SSH into it using PuTTY or bash, anything like just this is the command. It would be SSH, then the username at your IP address. I realize that I need to make this into red/code. So I'll do that before I share the article with you. But this is how you can SSH. The last piece here is some SSH troubleshooting. I did see that you can probably get permission denied or refused. So if you do that, this is a very common problem. It says connection refusal. And to address it, you would need to make sure the SSH status is running. So check the status, make sure the open SSH server is installed also. It could be not even installed to start with, or maybe it's not on, so you can start it with this command. So these 3 commands will help you with the troubleshooting in case you run into any issues. One last thing here that I want to mention is if you want to remote desktop into it, you can use XRDP. I did not want to go that deep in this video. Maybe I'll save it for another video. Let me know if you're interested. However, I did some research for you and I found this post on Ask Ubuntu. So I'm sharing here in the article. This post will help you set up the XRDP and remote desktop into it. The gist of it is you just have to enable another port, make sure you add that to the firewall and allow traffic into it, then install XRDP, and you can just use like the remote desktop to get into it. For the Renegade, I thought this was too heavy. However, I did go through all these steps and it worked for me just fine. It was a little bit heavy and kind of uh, lagging. If you don't want to do everything, you can easily skip the KDE. You can just do the setup and then go to the SSH and you're all set. Or you can do the setup and then skip to the remote desktop and you should be fine too. Not necessarily you have to do all of this. I did it for fun and also for testing. So I just wanted to see what this board is capable of. Time for final conclusion and my honest opinion. So far, I like the board. I really love the fact that they kept the theme very consistent with the Raspberry Pi. They documented this very well on their website. And for someone who is already experienced with the Raspberry Pi, I got into this really quick. I did not have to learn something new from scratch. So this was really helpful. I wish that they have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on board, but that's not a deal breaker. You can always add these via USB. For the current price, I think it's a great deal comparing to the Raspberry Pi that is impossible to get at the MSRP price. So depend on what you want to do with this. Do I recommend installing KDE Plasma and remote desktop into it? Absolutely not. This was more of like a testing experiment. I just wanted to push the board to the limit and see how far I can go with this and just kind of have fun with it. If you just want to install like Raspbian 11 desktop and remote desktop into that, yeah, the performance was perfectly fine. If you want to just like SSH into it and keep it light, that's also perfectly fine. So it depends on your project need. I think this is perfect, especially now that you can just get it and it's available off Amazon uh, without having to wait. I don't know how long for the Raspberry Pi. I'm not sure when it's going to be available at the MSRP price, and I'm not willing to pay like 10x the price for those like who are selling for that price. That's crazy. Um, yeah, I did not want to run this video for too long, so I'll stop here. If I missed any details or if I skipped anything, if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know in the comments, and I can always make another follow-up video, or I will be answering some questions in the comment if you have anything. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.